James Hardware sells door lock sets for $74.99, including installation. The company hires subcontractors to install the lock sets. The subcontractors receive $22 per lock set installed. Other overhead costs total $7.56 per set. If James Hardware pays $32.55 for each lock set, what is the company's net profit? Okay, so you can see I've already circled the question they're asking, which is, what's the net profit? And that's always the first thing to recognize. What is the question asking me to do? Next, grab the equations that you might need to solve the problem. Always use the lesson number as an indicator of the equations you might need. Now fill in what you know. Work from the inside out. So in this case, my eventual goal is to get to net profit, but I can't get there until I solve for markup. So I'm going to plug in what I know about markup. First, I know that the selling price is $74.99. I also know that the cost is $22 per lock set and $32.55 for each lock set. Okay, this is the cost to the company. So again, because we're paying subcontractors $22 per lock, that's a cost. And then the hardware, James Hardware pays $32.55 for each lock set anyway, so we add that as an additional cost. Now if I subtract these, I'll find markup. And notice that I also could have written this as $74.99 minus 22 minus $32.55. That would have been the same thing. I would have been distributing the negative symbol. So when I do the subtraction, that tells me that my markup is equal to $20.44. I can plug this number into my net profit equation. So net profit is equal to $20.44 minus our overhead. And we're told that overhead costs include $7.56 per set. So the net profit ends up being $12.88. So again, I identified what the question was asking me to calculate. I grabbed useful equations from the lesson. I plugged in what I knew, and then I used that information to work my way backwards to figure out net profit. Let's do one more net profit example. So Nikisha Sporting Goods operates on a 45% overhead based on the selling price. This results in an overhead of $65.34 on the newest version of an air hockey game set. The air hockey game set costs the sporting store $49.32. Find the net profit to the nearest cent. So again, pull up those equations that you might need. Notice that once again, they're also asking us to find net profit. So pull out your net profit equation. Net profit is equal to markup minus overhead. And overhead is equal to selling price. I'm just going to write selling times our overhead percentage. Our overhead percentage. Okay, fill in what you know. So we know that our overhead percentage is 0.45. So I converted 45% to a decimal. What else do we know? Well, we know that our overhead is equal to $65.34. Okay? So from here, how can we proceed? How can we proceed? Well, my goal is I need to know markup before I can actually solve for net profit. So you might ask at this point, okay, what's the equation for markup? So markup is equal to selling price minus cost. Minus cost. Okay. So we need to figure out a way to work around the fact that we don't know markup and we don't know selling price. However, we do know overhead and overhead percent. So can't we use this to solve for selling price? And that's what we'll do next. So by rearranging this equation, so I have 6534 equals selling times 0.45. If I divide both sides of this equation by 0.45, I'll find that selling price is equal to $145.20. Now I can plug that into markup. So I plug in my 145.20 and I ask myself, okay, cost, do I know cost? And it turns out they did tell us that the cost to the store was $49.32. Simplifying this will tell me that my markup is equal to $95.88. I can now plug that into my net profit equation. So net profit is equal to $95.88 minus our overhead of $65.34, which gives us a final answer of $30.54 in net profit. Now, one of the keys here was writing out the equation to overhead, even though they actually gave me the amount, right? They told me overhead was $65.34, but I went ahead and read out the equation anyway, and that's how I figured out that I could solve for selling price using overhead. So keep in mind that even if an equation doesn't explicitly say selling price equals blah, 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 you still might be able to manipulate an equation to solve for a variable, even if it's not the obvious variable that the equation is solving for in the first place. So always write out as many equations as you think necessary. In fact, you might just write out all the equations from the lesson that day. It's better to have extra information than not enough information.